The city of Isle of Palms is gearing up for a big 4th of July holiday weekend. Today, I talk one-on-one with Isle of Palms Police Chief Kevin Cornett about this weekend and how they're preparing for it for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Chief Kevin Cornett, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here with you.
Oh, I appreciate it greatly. Obviously, you're the police chief of the Isle of Palms. And I just want to jump right into it, Chief. Let's go back to Memorial Day. I was at home in my bed that weekend, just resting, getting ready for the next week. But I know you all were very busy on the Isle of Palms because there were so many people wanting to celebrate the holiday weekend. What lessons from Memorial Day weekend are you now applying to your upcoming 4th of July weekend?
Well, we always know Memorial Day would be busy, but we always plan that 4th of July is the busiest day. And so every year we increase staffing. It's all hands on deck for the police department, for the fire department, and even what we've done to take it a little bit further this year is we've brought in extra personnel, or we're scheduling extra personnel from our neighboring agencies like Charleston County Sheriff's Office and some of those things. And we've taken a little bit different steps on how we're positioning folks so that our personnel are in positions that are easy to respond to anything that might happen.
How are you positioning them right now, leading up to this holiday weekend?
So starting today, staffing has increased, and we get a little more specific. Normally, on a normal day, it's kind of island-wide patrol, but when we get into these busy weekends, we really separate them as to these folks are assigned to patrolling the northern end of the island. These folks are the southern end. These folks are assigned to the Front Beach Business District area, and then putting specific individuals on the beach to patrol that area just to make sure we've got all of our bases covered.
And what other bases will you cover for the 4th of July weekend?
So we know we're going to have a lot of parking, and we know that's coming in. And typically what we tell folks with parking is that know that it's going to fill up quick. Typically, it fills up around 11 o'clock, and on a 4th of July, because we have fireworks that evening, it's probably going to remain packed, and the parking lots will remain full throughout the day. And with that, we have certain officers and beach service officers that are assigned to the traffic direction after fireworks to help everybody get off. And it may seem awkward. We're going to send you in different directions. We do that so that we can keep from having all the vehicles in one spot trying to leave the island over that one bridge. And so we really try to spread that out. Just kind of work with us. Understand that it may seem weird, but there's a method to our work and a method to the way that we're sending everybody in that traffic. The other part is making sure we patrol the beach and that we're looking not only for violations, but for people that maybe they've had too much to drink and they're becoming out in this heat, they're becoming more of a heat casualty or something like that. So not only to enforce laws, but to make sure that we're out there for the safety of individuals that are enjoying their fireworks. Or enjoying their 4th of July and our fireworks. And fireworks are not authorized on the island with the exception of ours.
Right, that's exactly right. Let me break down what you just said, Chief. Okay, first and foremost, what were the violations related to obviously drinking and all that other stuff on the Memorial Day weekend?
So normally what we see on Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day is we'll see an increase in people that may be consuming alcohol on the beach, which you cannot do. There will be people that have glass on the beach, which you cannot have glass on the beach. You can't smoke on the beach. And most of these things, it's not a matter of going out and seeing how many tickets we can write. That's not what we're about at all. It's can we get compliance? And most of the time that is accomplished by saying, hey, you probably don't know, but you cannot drink alcohol on the beach or you cannot smoke on the beach. And so that's our normal approach with those things, not trying to be heavy-handed with tickets or arrest people or anything like that.
Now, how many tickets did you have to write and how many arrests did you have to unfortunately make?
So on Memorial Day weekend, I couldn't tell you exactly how many arrests we made, but I can tell you for alcohol on the beach, it was a very small number of tickets that may have been issued. We did have some incidents on the beach that resulted in 2 people being arrested for weapons violations for guns. And then we had a party that took place that did result in a arrest for an individual that was carrying a firearm that he was not allowed to carry. A couple traffic stops and DUIs. We see an increase in DUIs during the summer in general, and so we really pay close attention to that. And we encourage folks to come out, have a great time, enjoy yourself, have a plan so that you don't drink and drive.
Now, obviously, when you talk about obviously those arrests, when you talk about that party, Chief, how many people were actually at this party, and how many people were actually allowed to be at that party?
So the party that we had on that Saturday on Palm Boulevard was at a rental house, and the estimation, obviously we did not count everybody, but the estimation was that there were upwards of 200 individuals at this party, and they were being bussed in, they were parking, and a bus would take them to the lot. They had security at the house, they had live entertainment or live videos that were being sent out, and there were a lot of different things going on, and the rental houses have a cap on how many people can be there. And when they enter their lease agreement with the rental company, there are stipulations that are put in place. And one of those would be that you cannot have a large, loud party. And so the rental company came to that house and actually advised the individual that leased the property that, hey, you violated the lease. It's time for everybody to leave. And we stood there with them to make sure that that happened in a peaceful manner and that everything was fine.
Wow. And going forth, when those situations happen, what will Alva Palms Police Department do to make sure they don't have 200 people at a party?
So really, we rely heavily on the neighbors to call us and tell us when these things are going. We look at our intelligence that we get from anybody else. If we start to see a house that's gathering a lot, we don't ever. It's a hard line to balance because we don't want to ever be this department that's coming and counting how many people are at your house. We don't. That's not what we're here for. That's not. We don't ever want to be that way. But when we have a loud party or a large party, that's something we need to get involved in and shut it down because we do have ordinances here about the noise, and it's not an hour related thing. It's not at 10 o'clock. You're not allowed to make noise anymore. It's all day long. It's got a restriction on the noise level. So, and we get calls. We rely on those neighbors to call us, and we rely on our partnership with the businesses that rent those houses out, and that's something we want to continue to build on so that we have those conversations in advance.
What don't you want to build on when it comes to that particular subject?
Really, we want them to know that, first off, we have a relationship where they can call us if they have any issues, or like this instance, we were able to call them and say, hey, you've got a large party here, just making you aware as the rental property, and they were able to come out and look at it and say, hey, this is a violation of our lease, and they were able to take steps on it. Maybe it's not a lease, but the agreement that they signed, and they were able to come out and say, this isn't what they're allowed to do, so we want them to leave. And we want them to know that when they do that, we're there to support them. We can't make them leave necessarily. The property owner has to do that, or the management company has to do that, but we will stand by with them. And that's just something we're working on, building those relationships where they know that we're here for them to help out. And same thing, we come and help them when there are issues that take place that we need to address.
Now, what were the noise levels, Chief, prior to you all coming out there along with the rental property owners?
I'm sorry, could you say the question again?
Yes,
I heard it, but I couldn't understand it.
Oh, no worries. What were the noise levels prior to you all coming out to that particular property?
Well, when you have that many people, there were a lot of, and normally it's got to do with the music that's being played, loud music. It's got to do with a lot of people who are talking, and obviously when you have a large group of people that are talking, everybody wants to be heard. So you may not even mean to, but you're talking over the other individual so that the individual you're talking to hears you. And that just carries on, and when it gets dark outside, there's not a lot of people out. A place that has a lot of people, just that noise is going to carry further.
Yes, sir. And going back to DUIs, which you mentioned earlier, how many were those on Memorial Day, and how many of those have been escalating since that time?
I really don't know off the top of my head how many were on Memorial Day. I know we made a few. I could tell you that last year we made over 100 DUI charges, and we are already at 57 as of the beginning of this week for 57 DUIs for this year. And so we really have seen an increase in people that are driving under the influence. And so we want people to know, don't drink and drive. And that includes golf carts.
Oh, yes.
You cannot drink and drive a golf cart either. You can get a DUI on a golf cart.
That's exactly right. And I want to talk to you about that in just a second. But let me ask you, will there be any pedestrian barricades along Ocean Boulevard to keep pedestrians safe on the sidewalk?
We won't have any additional barricades that are up, but typically the roads are built in a way that as long as everybody stays on the sidewalk, you're not going to have any issue. We will have personnel that are down on the front beach when that heavy foot traffic takes place. They'll be down there and they're watching to make sure that people are stopping for the crosswalks, which they have to do by state law. to let people cross. And typically the traffic on Front Beach, where we have the most foot traffic, is so heavy that there's not much room for you to do anything other than to stop and wait for people.
That's right. And I want to go back to that too in a minute, Chief. But will emergency access lanes be blocked for emergency vehicles only on certain avenues or boulevards?
So on all the avenues, it's parking for residents only, with the exception of certain ones on the south end of the island. But none of them are in a position that it would prevent a emergency vehicle from entering on one of those emergency access lanes. It is a violation to block one of those, but since I've been here, we've not had that issue, and I don't suspect that we would have that this year.
Now, will an extended traffic pattern be implemented if traffic conditions warrant that use of such pattern?
So we will typically take on 14th Avenue if the traffic backs up, and it's most often related to traffic trying to get into the county park. It will sometimes back up, and that can have an impact on that intersection at Palm Boulevard and the Isle of Palms connector, which is a crucial intersection for emergency response. So if it starts to back up, we will take a block and put a block in place so that 14th Avenue is closed, and we'll encourage individuals coming to take a left or a right on Palm Boulevard to go to parking. What we've been trying to do this year is encourage anybody that's waiting for county park. We encourage them to just keep moving, and we try to put a deputy down there, and if they're available, that's where they're going to be sending people just to continue down Ocean Boulevard, so that we don't have that back up into the intersection and we don't have to block that road. Obviously, after the fireworks, we will have traffic patterns that are changed, where we're sending some vehicles north on 14th Avenue and Ocean Boulevard so that they can get to the Isle of Palms connector. Other vehicles coming out of our municipal lots will be sent either to J.C. Long Boulevard or to Ocean Boulevard to travel southbound, where they will go towards the Palm Boulevard, towards Sullivan's Island side, so that we can kind of spread this out a little bit.
And let me ask you this. Since 2020, the Isle of Palms has added dozens of new parking spots to Palm Boulevard. How many have actually filled weekly?
We will see during the summer, a lot of those will fill. It is not uncommon, especially on a weekend, to drive down there, and I probably drive down here in a little bit with the sun finally starting to creep out.
Oh,
just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
I could drive down there and I could see on a beautiful sunny day, all of those lots or all of those parking spots that were added on Palm Boulevard, they'll be full. All of the spots that are on the ocean side that are parallel, they'll be full. We get a lot of people that come out and use those parking spaces, and it is much more orderly with the way that it is designed, and it's built in a way that it makes it a little more understandable for the individual that's coming to know where they can and cannot park. So we've actually seen a decline in tickets issued in that area because it's a little more clear on how to park.
Where is the increase going towards? What area is that now happening?
As far as the increase in tickets being issued,
yes,
really,
sir.
We haven't had an increase in tickets issued. We've tried to, in Front Beach area, we've had some improvements that we made. Last year, we tried to use an app that proved to be a little difficult for a lot of people, and even the amount of data that it was using from the system were preventing individuals from even being able to download the app. So this year we've implemented a text to park, and there are signs all over the parking lots, and so we've seen great use of that, and it's helped a lot. And with that, we've seen a reduction in tickets issued.
And do you know, Chief, how many people have actually used that text, initiative thus far?
I do not.
Okay. Now, where exactly will officers be placed to ensure safe parking on the island?
So they're going to be spread out through different areas, and they're not necessarily going to be stationary when they're out here, but we will have them assigned to the northern end, which will be from Breach Inlet to 10th Avenue. We'll have several there. We'll have several assigned to the Front Beach area, the business district, which is where the municipal parking lots are. That would include where the county park is. And then we would have some that are scheduled or assigned to the northern end of the island from 21st Avenue to Wild Dunes.
Now, okay. And so for people waiting for parking spaces, Chief, how does your department make sure the vehicles are not actually blocking the roads?
That's where our beach service officers will be coming in. Normally where we see that taking place, it's on the Front Beach area, and people are driving around waiting for a spot to open. And when we see them stop, our officers will simply say, hey, keep moving for now. Keep moving and circle back. One thing that's going different this year is the county park has put a sign on the other end of the connector, and they will be using that to share real-time data about if their lot is full or not, so that hopefully by the time vehicles make it to that location, they'll already know that the lot is full. So if you see that sign and it says full, don't just assume that they're just saying that. They're legitimately full, and you're going to have to find parking in other places.
And I'll be able to tweet all that stuff out too when you all tweet it out as well. But let me ask you, will there be any restrictions on golf carts and mopeds?
Not necessarily on mopeds. The state law has already got those restrictions, and even on golf carts, the law is pretty consistent about what can be used. What we do see are a lot of individuals that don't understand the difference between a golf cart and a low-speed vehicle.
Right.
Golf carts do not have a license plate and are still registered through the Department of Motor Vehicles, but a low-speed vehicle will actually have a license plate issued to it from the DMV, and those low-speed vehicles can drive on Palm Boulevard, but the golf carts cannot drive on Palm Boulevard. And with those things, we do step up our enforcement for golf carts because we've seen incidents in years past where things might happen where people are driving that are underage. And, we've had some of those incidents here recently where an underage driver was involved in a collision with a golf cart. And so it's really one of those topics that we're trying to get out, that you have to be 16 years old to drive. You have to have a driver's license. You have to be within 4 miles of the registered address for the golf cart, and it has to be registered with the DMV. And you have to have insurance.
Exactly right. And how many of those cases, unfortunately, Chief, that you have to deal with when it comes to these underage driving with golf carts?
The only one that was a collision we've had one this year. Aside from that, a lot of times it's not necessarily trying to write tickets, it's an education thing, because a lot of times people might rent a house here on the island and there will be a golf cart there, and they may not know because they're from another state where laws might be different, or they may not use golf carts where they're from. I've lived in Indiana, and I promise you, we didn't have any golf carts in that little bitty town I was in. We had people on horse and buggy, but we did not have any golf carts. Tractors, yes. Golf carts, no. So it's different here, and so they'll get here and they'll see it and they'll assume that they can ride it and drive it on the roads. And a lot of times, again, for us, it's an education thing. If you probably don't know this, but you can't. And if they give us an issue or they continue to violate that, then we would write tickets for it. But we don't write many tickets for that violation.
Now, what else are you educating, visitors and residents about when it comes to driving on these state-owned roads right now?
Really, for our residents or for the visitors, we have to educate on the crosswalk law because it's not the same in every state. So we do try to make some education there. We educate on golf carts. We educate on the rules for the beach. And we have to educate about the wildlife. And a lot of times now this is nothing new. We've been doing it since before I got here. We have beach service officers that will drive the beach at the end of the day. They fill the holes back up that were dug. But we also take opportunities to talk to people that are visiting the beach and say, hey, please make sure you fill your hole before you leave. And we explain why it's important. And a lot of times it turns into a great opportunity to talk about the wildlife on our island and the endangered species that call this place home, or just come here and lay eggs and wait for them to hatch.
That's exactly right. How has your department, Chief, taken action against residents who encroach into the state road right-of-ways since the law was passed last May? That's Bill Senate 40. Fines can be assessed at $100 per day once the resident receives notice. Wouldn't the city receive some of those funds?
So if you read the S40 statute, the encroachment violations would be enforced through DOT. They would be the first point of contact, and we will go to assist the Department of Transportation if they have an individual that cannot become compliant and they need an enforcement arm. We would assist at that point. But most of the time, we would point those complaints to Department of Transportation so that they can look into, because sometimes they actually have a permit that's been issued for that encroachment, and DOT is going to have that on file. They'll look into it. If it's not permitted, then they will handle it and address it with the individual of the property owner and encourage them to come into compliance. If they still fail to come into compliance, that's when we would go out to assist DOT with an enforcement.
And how many of those issues have the DOT had to address thus far?
Since I've been here, it's been a handful, and that's since 2019. It's not been a lot that they have actually called us to assist with. Now, how many they're working on their own, I couldn't tell you. I'm sure they get a large number of locations where there's been an encroachment that they were probably looking into and investigating.
Now, going back to obviously taking action against residents who encroach into the state road right of ways since the law was passed, has the city received any funds from that?
Not to my knowledge, but if they would have, it would be something that the city administrator would know about under the budgeting part. I wouldn't know if we've got any funds from that or not.
Okay. And when did your department install golf cart parking only spaces?
The golf cart parking only spaces have been in place since 2019. If there are any new ones that are a violation, if people will please let me know where they believe that is, we can certainly look into it. And if it is not part of the 2019 approved plan, then we would go out and correct those because they would not have to be there. But to my knowledge, the only new one that's been added that would be on city-owned roadways, which would not be part of that parking plan.
Now, okay, did your department or the city get DOT approval for these, golf cart parking only spaces?
So the 2019 plan was approved from Department of Transportation with the golf cart places or golf cart parking only signs that are out there. Again, those are in certain areas, and if somebody believes that there is one out there that is inaccurate, I would encourage them to contact me or my department, and we would look into it. And if it is not part of the approved plan that was approved by DOT, then we would take corrective actions to fix that.
Now, can non-residents drive golf carts onto the island?
They cannot. So because of the way to get to the island, you're going to violate the 4-mile law to be operating because you cannot operate with further than 4 miles from your home where it's registered. So there's no way for them to drive it onto the island and stay compliant with that law.
So, and obviously it's resident only parking. What else should people know about that, Chief?
As far as what else do people know about resident parking?
Yes, sir.
Only? That's something we spend a lot of times, and what I've really encouraged our beach service officers to work on this year and in the years past is when we see somebody parking, a lot of times they're not purposely parking in violation. Maybe they got so many things. Like I've got 4 kids, and I will tell you now, they are yelling at me, wanting to know why we're not parked yet, why we're not out on the beach yet, and they're just or they're arguing with each other, and there's no telling. And so I totally understand that people get there and they see, here's the spot I can park, I can get my kids out, we can get to the beach, maybe they'll calm down on the beach. I totally understand those things. And so what we're trying to do is make sure that our staff, when they see somebody that's doing that, if they see them first, and we can tell them, hey, don't park there, you might get a ticket, we don't want you to get a ticket, so please find somewhere else to park. That's our approach to these things. Unfortunately, a lot of times we don't see it prior to, so we can't have that education part. We do try to make sure that all the signs are there, that they can see if they're looking for signs. But again, I totally understand what it's like to have a family in a car and you're trying to park somewhere and maybe you miss one of the signs, and those things do happen. But we try to make sure that all those signs are visible so people know that it is resident-only parking.
Yeah, I've seen that myself. That's kind of hilarious too. But let me ask you, obviously it's summer, how much has crime risen on the city of Isle Palms?
I am glad to say that our crime is down compared to last year. We actually just did our briefings with the residents. We like to hold community meetings and share our stats with them. And I'm glad to say that our property crimes, our violent crimes, everything's, as of now, I'll knock on some wood, everything is down. And we want it to stay that way. And I credit that to visitors, businesses, residents are calling us. And that's something that we've really tried to push that message out. If you see something that looks like it might be wrong, call us. A lot of times people are hesitant to call because they don't want to bother us. But we're here and this is what we do. So call us and please communicate those things. So I credit the fact that we're down on our crimes to residents, visitors, businesses, and our police officers who are out here, and they're being proactive to make sure that we can address things before it turns into something else.
What are those trends that you're seeing that you all are going to be proactive about eventually?
So where we're going to be more proactive coming up would be traffic. The number one complaint that we get on the island is typically related to traffic or speeding. And I'll tell you, in my experience as a chief, this is not the only department I've been a chief at. In my previous department, the number one complaint we had dealt with speeding and traffic. And that's something that people see all the time. And we don't just get those complaints from residents. We get those from visitors. We get those from businesses. But that is something where once we get our staffing fully set up and we get past the 4th of July, we would have a traffic unit that begins to come out, and we're training them specific to do traffic enforcement and traffic safety. And I think with that, we'll see more proactivity in those areas to reduce the speed or the any safety issues from people that are driving in a manner that's unsafe.
And what neighborhoods are you all looking at as far as reducing speeds?
So we won't be reducing speed in any of them. The Department of Transportation has already reduced the speed limit island-wide to 25 miles an hour unless otherwise posted. There are a couple of places, maybe 3, that are going to be 15 miles an hour. That's going to be on the Front Beach area, 27th Avenue next to the Isle of Palms Recreation Center, and then Forest Trail, which were already posted as 15, and then it just took everything else down to 25 miles an hour in those residential areas. Palm Boulevard doesn't change. It stays at 30 miles an hour. The connector stays at 45 miles an hour. So there's really not a lot of changes to those. But aside from that, we'll be focusing island-wide on traffic enforcement with our traffic unit.
And Chief, I hope to get you back before Labor Day so we can talk about, how you all are preparing for the Labor Day as well. But Isle of Palms Police Chief Kevin Cornett, thank you for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close Up.
Thank you. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise.